No one, from the creator down to the smallest insect, can attain supreme peace unless he acquires perfect control of the mind. I think this language, control of the mind, can be misleading. We need to be very careful about it. I think in the West or anywhere else, controlling the mind means what it sounds like. But really what it means is not being controlled by the mind. So control of the mind is really freedom from the mind. Because controlling the mind, who's going to control the mind? People that are into controlling the mind are usually people that want one part of the mind to control another part. So control of the mind is a bit like warfare on a level plane. But really, all we want to be is not controlled by the mind. That's freedom. Freedom isn't about control, it's about not being controlled. I think the next sentence bears this out. By the mere investigation of the nature of bondage, it ceases to bind, even as the obstacles on the path do not hinder one who examines them carefully. So in other words, it's freedom from bondage. We look at how the mind binds us and we investigate it. We look into it. We look into it in any way we can. This is straightforward inquiry. We look at how things bind us and how they diminish us. We're bound to them because we think we're going to get some kind of comfort from them, some kind of fulfilment from them, but then it passes and it gets caught up again. We're like addicts actually. The mind makes us into addicts. And if we truly realise and examine the detrimental nature of these addictions, then the bondage loosens. Ghosts do not haunt one who is careful and who is awake. In other words, if you actually see, if you actually properly appreciate and are openly honest about the damage that is being done by your bondage, by your addictions, then you wake up from it, you're awake. If you close your eyes, the vision of the external world is blotted out. If you remove the notion of the world from your consciousness, pure consciousness alone exists. And we're addicted to our notions, the notion of materiality being one of them. I say this and you'll immediately start thrashing around looking for proof in the fundamental reality of materiality. But actually there isn't any, and this is what's bothering the scientists, both at the macroscopic level and at the microscopic level. There's a lot of missing matter. There's a huge amount of missing matter. And on the subatomic level, they can't actually explain how matter comes into being. So they're looking for this Higgs boson, which apparently creates this field by which particles gain their mass. They're looking for physical evidence for our everyday notion of matter, of materiality. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Well, perhaps as they're finding trouble with matter on the macroscopic level and on the microscopic level, and perhaps there isn't any such thing. It's a limited notion. Matter is a limited notion. Perhaps energy is a better notion, a less limiting notion. So if you remove the notion of the world, if you remove the notion of materiality, pure consciousness alone exists. So there we have it. If we can actually get over our addiction to the notion of materiality, then we're getting closer to pure consciousness, the realization of pure consciousness. And if you have a problem with this intellectually, well, which is fair enough, then just reduce it to its two simplest components. There's freedom of motion and there's resistance. There's resistance. That's all there is. We don't need to bring a notion of matter into it, so break it down. There's freedom of motion and there's resistance. That's all we can actually say once we investigate it. These are two sensations that we've got that we build notions of a material world upon. So once we get down to that very basic level, it's possibly much easier to step over into the awareness within which there's freedom, in which there's resistance. This freedom of movement and this resistance actually arise within. And we're close to consciousness, if not once more identified with it. The pure consciousness alone exists even now. The world is an unreal appearance brought about by just a little agitation in it. Just a little cogitation, a little agitation of cogitation. We think there's a world out there, and this becomes like the rock bouncing down from the hilltop into the conception of materiality. It is the creation of the cosmic mind, as it were. The mind is cosmic. It's not, the cosmic mind isn't some higher being's mind. It's our own mind which is cosmic, because the cosmos arises within it. It's aware of everything, isn't it? What an extraordinary thing. It's got this awareness of everything. This cosmic mind merely entertains the notion of such a creation, for it does not have the material substances needed for material creation. If there's no materiality, there's no material substances, and so there can be no physical creation. It's all notional. The world is a painting on the Brahman canvas, without colours and without instruments. How then can it be said that this world has really been created? By whom? How? When? And where? All these things are notion. The notion of a creator, the notion of how a creator could have done it. When and where? Well, it's happening now, right here. That's where it started off from, now, here. This is where the cosmic mind is. This is where the notion of materiality sprang from. And this is where that original illusion has given birth to countless other illusions, just like insects after the rain.